Don Lemon tells white viewers, if you grew up in America, you're probably racist. The CNN anchor Don Lemon, who is often referred to by President Trump as the dumbest man on television, sent a strong message to his white viewers last week. You're racist. In a long-winded rant, Lemon revealed that he believes that if you grew up in America, it's likely you're a racist by default. Listen, white people are so scared right now to do anything, to talk about anything, to broach these conversations. They're sort of frozen because who wants to be called a racist, right? He went on with his condemnation of basically everyone, saying, if you grew up in America, you came out of American soil. Considering the history of this country, how can you not be racist? He asked. How can you not have racial blind spots? How can you not see that the factory reset in America is whiteness? This latest lecture comes after Lemon's controversial comments last week that compared BLM rioters to America's founders.
Our country was started because this is how the Boston Tea Party, rioting. So do not get it twisted and think that, oh, this is something that has never happened before, and then this is so terrible, and where are we, and these savages and all of that. This is how this country was started.
The CNN activist has also suggested that any attempt to implement law and order in this country would be a sign we're living in a Trump dictatorship. While Lemon is not facing any pressure from radicals or his liberal network to tone down his divisive comments, one thing is becoming clear to the rest of us. Don Lemon is living up to the nickname given to him by President Trump.
Election alert. President Trump plans to turn the House red with these congressional candidates. President Trump is playing a big role in boosting up-and-coming candidates as the Republicans aim to take back the House in 2020. He has officially started endorsing candidates for the House of Representatives. While most endorsement announcements first emerge on Twitter, it's likely Trump will continue to show support for these candidates with hometown rallies and fundraising efforts. Here's just a few of President Trump's recent endorsements that will help turn the House red in November. David Young, Nancy Mace, Sean Parnell, Michelle Fischbach, Matt Mowers, Lacey Johnson. As always, even in an election year as historic as this one, voter participation will be the deciding factor in many of these very important races. There's no doubt the buzz created by a high-profile presidential endorsement from a super fundraiser like President Trump will be invaluable to these campaigns in the coming months. Breaking: Justice Department sues to block John Bolton memoir. As former National Security Advisor John Bolton makes the rounds in the media promoting his new anti-Trump tell-all, the Justice Department is making moves to put the book on hold. President Trump's Justice Department has officially filed a civil action with the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, alleging that Bolton's memoir risks compromising national security by publishing a book containing classified information, in clear breach of the agreement he signed as a condition of his employment. The DOJ included several official documents in the complaint against Bolton, including a signed non-disclosure agreement to access classified information and an email from the director of the National Security Council's management to Bolton's lawyers that warns that any plan to release Bolton's manuscript would imminently violate the terms of his agreement. For now, the highly anticipated memoir is set to be published later this month. We will have to wait and see if the court officially rules on the side of the White House to halt the release.
Former Hillary Clinton running mate makes a huge gaffe about slavery. Former vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine, who ran alongside Hillary Clinton in 2016, spoke on the Senate floor on Tuesday and made an outrageous claim. The senator, who disturbingly has a law degree from Harvard, claimed the United States didn't inherit slavery from anybody. We created it. The bizarre assertion came as Kaine spoke of his support for the Democrat-backed Policing Act of 2020 that he, along with fellow Democrats Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, introduced last week in response to the radical leftist call to defund the police. But Senator Kaine clearly missed a history lesson or two. A quick Google search will tell you that the systems of slavery have their roots all the way back to 3500 BC, not 1776. Those on the left have rushed to the defense of their former VP hopeful, stating that his intent was to point out that the Constitution codified slavery. One reporter at Business Insider tried to spin the gaffe, saying, Tim Kaine's words are being widely taken out of context and misinterpreted. He was highlighting how the U.S. codified slavery and maintained it over centuries. And sure, we believe that. as long as we also believe that Tim Kaine does not know the meaning of the word created. Which wouldn't make him the first Democrat VP nominee who doesn't understand the English language. After all, they are the same party who voted for Joe Biden for vice president twice. Trump press secretary shreds the media for double standard on campaign rallies. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany has finally had enough of the media double standard when it comes to health concerns for Donald Trump's campaign rallies in comparison to how they've totally glorified Black Lives Matter protests. At a press conference on Wednesday, McEnany slammed reporters after she was repeatedly asked about the health risk of President Trump hosting a rally during the coronavirus pandemic. First, she explained the basics. Attendees will have their temperatures checked, masks will be provided to them, and social distancing will be encouraged. When this did not seem to satisfy liberal reporters, she went into attack mode, saying, "While we appreciate the great concern for our rally-goers, you should really exhibit that same concern for the protesters who are out there not social distancing in many cases." McEnany urged the so-called journalists to work on their internal cohesion and went even further to point out their conflict in narratives by holding up a copy of the New York Post. The front page compared a photo of thousands gathering in very close proximity for a Black Trans Lives Matter protest in contrast with a photo of the Trump rally. The piece was labeled "Sick Hypocrisy." Though they continued with their same failed line of questioning, it was obvious the press room had been defeated. In closing the conference, Kayleigh pointed out that the media should also note that attendees of the rally are attending totally voluntarily, and that those who plan to go are well aware of the risks involved, a concept that had seemingly never occurred to these anti-Trump reporters. Safe to say this was a win for the press secretary, and a big loss for the press.